Hey, 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 everybody. Michelle is back. Michelle is back on this Monday. Just had my lunch. My belly is full. So, I feel like taking a nap, but I got things to do. Today is June 15th, 2026. I'm back with another rambling redux. About our situation and, some of the perils that we face. And, it's unfortunate. It did not have to turn out this way, but it has. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. Everybody knows that. But a lot of people don't believe, or not believe, a lot of people do not know that there's cause and effect. You do reap what you've sown. And it doesn't matter if whether this happened in the 1700s or now in the 2026 reality, meaning your behaviors and actions matter. They form a sort of storage bank of what happens over the course of time. As we become and pass away, as we are born and we pass away, we leave a collection of information that's stored, and you can say a consciousness block. You can say whatever you want. That's kind of irrelevant because it's all energy. But you store a collection of information that's passed on to your future lineage, which are fresh and clean, brand new people. They're not the same as you, but yet they are going to be reaping some of the information that you've stored in your consciousness. Now, what the hell does all that mean? Meaning you cannot get away with the type of behaviors and actions and believe that you're not going to be suffering the consequences somehow, in some way. Whether it's with your lineage, whether it's with your descendants, whether it's with your children. And that's where so many people are going to be really, 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 I don't know if they're going to be devastated about it, because I think so many people are especially the religious tentacles, they are so self-absorbed in their own situations. And so I don't think it even matters to them what happens to their children and descendants. Because a lot of them are just having children just to be having them. And a lot of them have extreme hatred for themselves. Thus, they have extreme hatred for their partners or the people that they forced to, have these children. Because I can guarantee a lot of them would not have had these children from these religious tentacles if they knew the truth about the overpopulation. If they knew that they were causing irreversible damage to the planet. Because it doesn't make sense to have children and descendants when they come back to a planet that's in disarray, in chaos and destruction. Does that make sense? That's the illogical behavior of a lot of us who are just having children because of self-absorption. They're self-absorbed. They are believing that if they increase the population, they'll wipe out a certain race of people. Well, that in actuality, that is true. But it's not the people that they're wiping out that is expected. Okay, a lot of these religious tentacles believe that if they wipe out the black race or anyone that's of color, then they can be, the only race of white people, usually, that can populate the planet. And I'm telling you, that's illogical, irrational, and unreasonable. And what you're doing is essentially causing extinction for non-black people is with that behavior and action. I'm going to keep talking about it because I know at some point the so-called scientists are going to figure this out and get their head out of the sand and get their head out of their ass about their knowledge and what they know. And they're going to realize the math does not add up. You can go for decades and centuries with an incorrect formula or whereas the math is not adding up because we force numbers together. We we play with numbers, the gambling with numbers, and a lot of so-called self-proclaimed scientists knew that the math did not add up, but they did not believe that there were consequences of that. They felt like, they can go on and on and on, especially when it relates to space, especially when it relates to energy. And that's how they make, you make mistakes. Mathematics, you make constant mistakes when you're dealing with formulas, and that's the whole idea. But the whole idea is not to lie about it and keep it hidden that there were mistakes that were recognized. But instead of admitting that there were mistakes, it just got buried and buried and buried. So now here we are at the culmination, and the math does not add up. Yeah, you can throw a shuttle into the air, just like we did in 1969. We lied about, especially in America, we lied about going to the moon because it was all about lying and arrogance and wanting to be more than you are, appearing to be superior. But eventually, there were some corrections made where eventually they did make it to the moon. The moon and Mars or wherever they were headed. They figured out that there were some miscalculations, and so you can get away with that for so long with miscalculations, and eventually it's going to come back and bite you, and it's going to come back and actually it's going to come back and cause a catastrophe because the math did not add up. So consider what you're doing as a profession and ask yourself, have I been miscalculating numbers intentionally, or that whereas I did not want to admit that I made a mistake? Scientific breakthroughs result because of mistakes and errors. So they're part of the human development. But so many of the so-called scientists are so arrogant and cocky and know-it-all and rambling. You hear them all over the social media platform, always justifying their behaviors and actions and their lack thereof. We ought to not be in these type of extreme, devastating conditions, but we are. So it's going to take catastrophic events, to eliminate a large portion of this society, humanity, the equipment, toys, materialism, before some brave scientists or a brave collection of scientists come forward and say, hey, look, we knew these were mistakes, but we were told to just not disclose it and blah. Just come clean and be honest. Accept the catastrophic events that has been caused to the planet, and a lot of it is via these religious tentacles who believe that they are the catalyst to knowledge. And so the scientists allow these idiots, and they know who they are, to pretend that because they had lots of money, prestige, pedigree, privilege, they can just call themselves scientists, and they have no idea what that means and what that applies. They wanted to be the scientists, and they kind of threatened and pushed away the original deserving scientists who were fearful for a reason, because they wanted to protect themselves, their families, and so they were not able to sound the alarm about the perils that we face. They just allow the religious tentacles to come in and allow them to pretend they're scientists, and allow them to pretend they're know-it-alls, and now they are causing a destruction to the planet, which is irreversible. Okay? Do the math and ask yourself, does the math add up?